In this video, I'm going to talk about male relationship capacity. That's a man's ability to have a rewarding, fulfilling relationship. And this is a critical thing to examine in a man's horoscope or to figure out by observing him, because most of the relationship success depends on the actions of the man. A lot of people don't want to listen to that or believe that, but it's true. 90% of relationships go bad because of what the man does or doesn't do. More often what he doesn't do. There's only a few things a woman can do where we can point our fingers at her and say it's your fault that the relationship went bad. Almost always I'll be pointing both fingers at the guy and cocking the hammers too. I get so many women into my practice, and women mostly come to astrologers for relationships. Men tend to come more for money and career, but women, it's almost always relationships. And so often I hear, I wonder what I'm doing wrong. He doesn't love me, he doesn't want to marry me, he won't ask, he won't do this. What am I doing wrong? And it's never the woman's fault. Not never, but almost never. It's almost always the man's fault. So, what we have to know, if you're a woman, is what are the cases when it's actually your fault and not the man's? Okay? Well, 90% of the time. So you really don't even have to know what the cases are. If it's not working, you're with the wrong guy. Okay? But we want to be a little more scientific than that and take care of that 10% error margin to talk about what a woman could be doing that could make relationships go backwards. The first thing, there's one to three things. The first thing is wrong man. The first thing is she goes out with the wrong man. That's the majorly wrong thing that women do that causes them to have a doomed relationship. They pick the wrong person to have a relationship with. They either say yes to the wrong man or they pursue the wrong man. In either case, they end up being with Mr. Wrong instead of Mr. Right. Once a woman's made that mistake, there's no cure but to shoot Mr. Wrong. That's the only solution to this problem. There's no other solution. Yet women often do this. They get involved with the wrong man and they try to change the man. They try to fix the man. Well, I've got news. Men are unrepairable, they're not fixable, they're irreparable, I guess is the right word. Unless they decide they want to fix themselves all by their own. But they're never ever going to want to fix themselves because you want them to or tell them to. A woman cannot fix a man, okay? If she wants to fix something, she should get old VW or something, not a man, okay? So picking the wrong man is the number one problem that women do when they get started in a relationship. Okay? Now this is a whole world of topic of why women might actually choose the wrong man. Okay? But it happens all the time. Okay? Now after the woman chooses the wrong man, after she's made that fatal mistake, everything else is the fault of the wrong man. You got it? But that one fatal mistake that the woman makes is all it takes to ruin her love life until she's rid of that man. Okay? That's why knowing how to judge a man's relationship capacity is so critical. Because if a woman can judge his relationship capacity, she'll be able to figure out if he's a wrong man or a right man. What is a wrong man? Wrong man is a man who can't please any woman, who is going to ruin things with every woman. He's not going to know what he wants to do with a woman. He'll fall in love with her, but not want to know what he wants to do with her. He might not even fall in love with her. He might just want to abuse her and push her around and make himself feel like a man. He won't have follow-through. He'll get content and not put energy into the relationship going forward. When you say, I've had enough, I'm breaking up, he'll say, okay, if that's what you want. And then he'll wonder why you're getting mad at him for doing what you want. He'll let you decide the next step in the relationship to such a degree that you wonder if he even cares. Or is he just there because he has nowhere else to go? Those are all the things the wrong man does. And it's essentially your relationship is going to be doomed. So a woman has to know how to pick the right man. The right man will know what he wants. He'll know what he wants to do with you. He'll know what he wants to do in his life, and he'll be doing them. He'll follow through on what he decides to do. So when he says, I'll be there, I'll do this, I'll marry you, he's going to do those things every time. Okay? Unless he gets ran over by a truck on his way to doing those things. Okay? So you have to make sure your man is right. And we have a relationship report that lets us see if a man is indeed a man. Because really a wrong man versus a right man, the difference is a wrong man is simply not a man. He's just sort of this weird, ambiguous thing that shouldn't exist that's in a man's body. Okay? A right man is a real man who knows what he wants, says what he wants, and can hear no. That's a critical thing of Mr. Right. He can say, I want to chain you to my bed and have wild and crazy sex with you. And you'll say, ooh, I don't really feel comfortable with that. And he'll go, no problem, let's just go to the movies. Okay? But Mr. Wrong will say, I want to have wild and crazy sex with you and chain you to the bed. And you'll say, no way, what are you, crazy? And he'll go, I guess so, and he chains you to the bed anyway. That's Mr. Right. Mr. Wrong. So Mr. Right will say what he wants, and he can hear no. Okay? That's great. A guy who can hear no without feeling angry or feeling threatened or feeling castrated. That's a critical part of Mr. Right. And hardly any man's going to ask that, but men will always ask other things, such as, do you want to see the latest James Bond movie? I love action movies. And you might go, oh, I hate action movies. And he'll get upset that you don't want to go to the movies with him. That's Mr. Wrong. Okay, Mr. Right will go, well, geez, I can always go watch James Bond later. How about we just go see Wuthering Heights for the 10th time? And he'll go take you to see that movie because you love it. So, you want a man that can say what he wants and hear no and follows through on what he says. That's all. That's all a real man is. Okay? Now, like I said, we have a report that lets you see for like $14.95 if this guy has that capacity to be a real man or not. Okay? Now, you can figure out through observation if a man is a good man or not. Now, just because he's a good guy that's capable of having a relationship with what this report and what Mr. Right is capable of, if he decides on it, doesn't always mean he's in the time of his life where he wants to really get married. He might just want to date a while. But Mr. Right will tell you what he wants. He's not scared of saying what he wants. Okay? He's not scared of being rejected for what he wants. So you can have an honest conversation and see where he's coming from. Okay? Whereas Mr. Wrong won't know where he's coming from, don't really know what he wants, but of course he wants to be loved, and of course he wants to get laid, so of course he'll have a relationship with you if he's attracted to you. But if he doesn't know what he wants to do with you, you're going to end up with a huge problem on your hands. A good man will know what he wants to do with you and be able to tell you that. Okay? And if he's really a good guy, he'll tell you that in a responsible way before you have to ask him. Okay? He'll be concerned with taking care of you before you have to ask him to take care of you. One side of Mr. Right is he's taking care of you before you have to ask him to. Believe me or not, men like that exist on planet Earth. They are out there. Okay? Alright, now, so the main thing a woman can do that messes up her relationship is she chooses the wrong guy. And the reasons a woman might choose the wrong guy has a lot to do with problem number 2. Okay? Problem number 2, the only other thing a woman can do that where she's to blame for the relationship not working is she's not honest with first feeling. Okay, this is honest, open, and expressive with first feeling, with the first feeling. Okay, I need a secretary to help me with my handwriting here. Go on. Okay. If a woman is honest, open, and expressive with her first initial feeling, then she gives the right guy all the information he needs to take care of her and love her and cherish her in the best way possible. Okay? However, if she hides that first feeling and shows nothing, or shuts down, or she shows a secondary feeling, which is not the true first feeling, then he's misinformed about how to take care of her. At which point, all he can do is the wrong thing. And so by not a woman who doesn't honestly, openly, and expressively show her first feeling about what's happening to her in that relationship can only make him do the wrong thing, because now he has the wrong information. Now, I said honest, open, and expressive with first feeling. Honest, open, expressive is not equal to talking about feelings. Talking about feelings is a secondary step of relating to feelings. You need to have the first step. That's the critical step. So the minute the guy does something that hurts your feelings, the woman who's not going to bring out Mr. Wrong in the good guy is going to instantly just look down and slump. And it's going to be obvious by her whole body language, her tone of voice, that hurt her, that's not what she wants. And the right guy will see that and go, oh no, I'm moving towards hurting her. And he will immediately give you a different option. He'll change tactics until you express yay. Okay? Now, if it comes to the point where you don't show that, and then a week later you talk to him about it, now you're at a secondary stage. It's too late. Honest, open, and expressive with first feeling when it's there. It has to happen in the moment. Why does it have to happen in the moment? Because feelings happen in the moment. A week later, it's too late. Okay? So, if a woman, instead of showing her real feelings, shuts down, or if the woman, instead of feels hurt, but then shows anger, that's a secondary feeling, right? That's going to bring out the worst in the man. Okay? Women have to be brave, secure, and confident to show their first feeling. Okay? The same way that men have to be brave, confident, and secure to say what they want to a woman and to hear no when she doesn't feel like it, and to respect that no. Men have to also be confident. So, woman has to do this. If she shuts down or shows a secondary feeling, then she's to blame for the relationship not working. Now, here's the interesting thing. Women who are unable to be honest, open, and expressive with their first feeling almost always gravitate towards Mr. Wrong, to the guy who doesn't know what he wants, to the guy who doesn't have follow-through, to the guy who doesn't say what he wants, and then they get super frustrated with him anyway. Why is that? Well, because they don't want to pay attention. They don't want to feel this first feeling. It's too painful. It's too hard to show that first feeling. It's too hard to show someone that if you left me, I would really, really hurt. Or it's too hard to show someone honestly that I'm really, really hurt that you've been watching the waitress all through dinner. Okay? So instead, she gets really mad at him and says, gosh, you're just such a sicko pervert, you can't even keep your eyes off the girl in the miniskirt. That's not what is upsetting the girl. What's upsetting the girl is that she's hurt that he was not looking at her through dinner. Those are completely different things. One is truthful. He didn't look at her and hurt her feelings. The other one is a lie. She's angry because he looked at the waitress. No. She's hurt that he didn't look at her and instead was looking elsewhere. And out of that hurt, the second feeling is anger. Anger is always the second feeling. The first feeling is always first negative feeling. We're not talking about the positive feelings, which tend to be easier to show. But the first feelings are always fear, embarrassment, sorrow, loneliness, huge first feeling, and so on. So, a typical situation of a woman who's not having a hard time being open, on, and expressive with first feeling is the guy comes home 3 hours late after he promised. He comes home 3 hours late. And she goes, where the hell have you been? I've been waiting here for 3 hours. That second feeling, she's really pissed. What's the first feeling? I was lonely for 3 hours. So, if the woman goes to him and says, I was lonely for 3 hours, he'll go, oh my gosh, I really hurt her feelings, if he's a good guy. And he'll say, I'm going to make it up to you. Okay, so I'm going to take the day off tomorrow and we're going to go to Catalina Island in my friend's airplane or helicopter. We're just going to do it and have the whole day to ourselves. And she goes, yay, okay, this works out good. But if she comes home and says, where the hell have you been for the past 3 hours? He'll say, well, he'll yell back and say, well, a friend of mine had a jam. I went to help him, and it was, I was helping him somewhere, and my phone wouldn't work, and I couldn't call. And why are you being such a bitch anyway? Okay? So, first feelings. Now, the woman who can't show the first feelings doesn't like her first feelings being stirred up by a real man. A man who's direct and says what he wants and tells her honestly what he thinks. Those first feelings feel scary and threatening. So it's easier, not good, it's not better, it's easier, the path of least resistance, to be with the guy who doesn't stimulate her to feel the first feeling. Or instead, she's doing all the thinking and stimulating feelings in him. She's making the decisions, she's making the plans, she's fixing the problems more than 51% of the time, meaning too much. And then the relationship gets unbalanced, and the man's not into the relationship the same way she is. He doesn't bond to her the same way she bonds to him. And over time she gets frustrated, the relationship ends, and she's drained and hurt and exhausted. Okay? Happens every time. So a woman needs to be open, honest, and expressive about her first feelings. If she does that, she's not going to even gravitate towards the wrong man. So we can actually say there's only one single thing a woman can do to botch relationships. And we're going to put this one up here. And this is now number 1. She cannot be open, honest, and expressive with her first feelings. And she has to be open, honest, and expressive with those feelings to herself. And after to herself, to the people she wants to be loved by. Okay? Now the funny thing is, when women are not showing this first feeling, the first person they hide it from is themselves. And once they've hidden that first feeling from themselves, they have the second feeling to express to themselves and to others. So they hide that first feeling from themselves. And of course, then it's going to remain hidden from their loved one. Okay? So, this simply means being emotionally honest with oneself. If the woman will do that, she'll be emotionally honest with those around her. But if what she feels is too painful and comes with a lot of associated baggage, she may not want to feel those things. And so she won't, and then she can only relate secondary feelings, which means even if the right guy is right in front of her, he has secondary feelings to base his activities and how he wants to treat her. And those feelings, which aren't even the true feelings, are what he's acting on, and we have a horrible relationship. Okay? So it's really, that's number 1, and that leads quickly to number 2, picking the wrong man. All right. Now here's the interesting thing. Women will oftentimes go through patterns where they pick the wrong man, just like the man will pick the wrong woman. And then they'll mature, and then they'll start picking the right types until they get it right. Okay, and we can actually see with compatibility if a person's in the place in their life where they're still picking the wrong guy or where they're finally picking the right guy. And even then it can be some hard work to get everything right, because being open, honest, and expressive with first feelings is really hard sometimes. All right, a lot of us, we don't want to face our first feelings because they're too painful. So we hide them from ourselves and we hide them from everyone else. And we ruin our relationships, and we get aches and pains and weird stuff happening to our body. Okay? So how do we tell if it's the right guy? Because even if the girl is open, honest, and expressive with her first feelings, she still needs to pick mixed or right. She has to make sure the man has a good capacity for relationships, to be in a relationship. A man being in a relationship is like a man being in anything else. He's committable, he's steadfast, and he produces. Okay, those are what men are capable of. All right? A man who can do that in his world can do that in his relationship if he wants to. If he does it in the career he's chosen for himself, he can do it with the woman he's chosen for himself. Okay? So, you can observe a man's life and see if he has these qualities of knowing what he wants and going after it, but going after it in a way where he causes no harm to others. Okay? If a man knows what he wants and goes after it in a way and he doesn't care who he hurts along the way, when he wants you, do you think he's going to care how he hurts you as he wants you? No, he won't care. Okay? He simply will not care. So through observation, over some period of time, you can see if the man is steadfast, committed, responsible, and productive with the things in his life in a way where he does no harm. Real men do no harm. Only Mr. Wrongs do harm. They rape the environment and they abuse women either emotionally, verbally, or physically. Okay? So, you can observe that in his life. Or you can just go get a capacity report on the guy, and in 5 minutes you'll know if you should shoot him or say yes when he brings those flowers or whatever he's bringing. Okay? And how do we determine that astrologically? Well, we look at the parts of the man that represent the man. That means the sun is the man part of the man, and the ascendant is the man's part of the personality part of the man. And we want those to be in good shape, to make him manly in a healthy way. Not in an abusive way, but in a productive, responsible, steadfast, committed way that does no harm. Okay? And we also have to look at the 10th place from the ascendant and the 10th place from the sun, because that's the man's actions. His actions need to be steadfast, committed, responsible, productive, and do no harm. Okay? And do no harm means being overly controlling. You ever have that guy who's super successful, but he's overly controlling, so his wife and children just can't breathe? That's the wrong man. Because being overly controlling is causing harm. Okay? So we have to look at the 10th from the sun, the 10th from the ascendant, and the ascendant and the sun itself to see these qualities of a man, to see if he's a real man or not. Now, in addition to that, like I said, through observation, you can see if he's that way. Okay? In fact, I can talk to a woman for 5 minutes about her man, and right away, I can tell if she should shoot him, run away, get a new man, or marry him. It's that easy once you know what you're understanding what I'm trying to tell you. If he has those qualities, he's a good guy. That's a big part of the picture. Now, a lot of men have this capacity, but then they have other issues. Okay? For instance, they might think that relationships are there for them. Now, who's a relationship for? Is it for the man or is it for the woman? It's for neither of them. Relationships are not about the man in the relationship. Relationships are not about the woman in the relationship. Relationships are about the partnership. Okay? So in a good relationship, it's not the man thinking, I want this, and the woman thinking, I want this, and I'm going to do best what's for me, and the man thinking, I'm going to do what's best for me. It's both people saying, I'm going to do what's best for the partnership. Okay? That's a good relationship. When both people think, I'm going to do what's best for the partnership. Very few people ever get to experience that type of relationship. When there's that type of relationship, people have no reasons to fight. They have no reason to quarrel, because they're always thinking, I'm going to do what's best for the relationship. Okay? Whenever you're having a problem with your partner, you can be sure one or both of you is thinking, I'm going to do what's best for me. Or I'm going to do more what I want, instead of I'm going to do what the relationship wants, what the relationship needs, and what's best for the relationship. And not a lot of people just simply don't get in relationships. They just don't get that relationships are not about them. They're not about their partner. They're about the relationship. As a culture, Americans are terrible at understanding that relationships are about the partnership. In India and Asia, people tend to really know that relationships are about the relationship. Sometimes they fail in understanding that life is about oneself, though. and living is about oneself. In America, we know that living is all about us, right? I'm going to do my path, I'm going to do what I'm meant to do. And that's living. But relationships are about partnership. And that's the thing that Westerners, especially in the U.S., have somehow forgotten. And as a result, we have a higher than 50% divorce rate. We have something like nationwide 40 to 50% of mothers are single mothers. Some states have close to 60 percentile of single mothers. I think the best state is still in the low 20s or something, meaning when you go to the grocery store and you see a woman with a kid, even in the best state, 1 out of 4 of those women is single. And in a state like Arizona, where I live, it's like more than half those women are going to be single moms. Okay? And that's really twisted because all those kids growing up with those screwed up, dumb parents are going to make their own are going to become dumb parents themselves, most likely, unless they really, really learn. And that theme can continue until somebody wakes up to understand that relationships are about the partnership. So you need a man that understands that relationships are about the partnership, not about him. Okay? Now, women, by their very natures, tend to be more relationship-centered. Okay? And as a result, they naturally gravitate towards thinking the relationship is about the partnership more. They just tend to think that way. Thank God. Okay? Now, even though women are more geared that way naturally, sometimes they can't behave that way due to the fact that they don't feel like they could ever belong to something that's truly greater than being all alone. Because being in a partnership is greater than being all alone. Otherwise, why would anyone want to do it, right? Having a relationship that's about a partnership is greater than having a relationship that's about being all alone, which is what a relationship that's just about you or just about him is. Okay? When women can't be open, honest, and expressive about their first feelings, they also tend to be fearful of thinking they could ever truly belong to something greater than themselves. And so they feel to be in a relationship because they can never have that, which is what their natures want them to have. All they could have is a relationship that's somewhat about them getting a little bit of nurturing in this terrible world, of somebody caring for them just a little bit. And it doesn't work that way. Both people have to make the relationships about the partnership. So you need to make sure your man can do this. Okay, there's some things in charts that can really hurt this. Venus conjunct the moon, or the moon opposite Venus, makes it really hard for a man to make a relationship about the partnership. Great example of this is Tom Cruise. Here's Tom Cruise. He's a total man. Knows what he wants, goes after what he wants, succeeds in what he wants. He's the 4th most powerful producer in Hollywood. He owns the largest share of Universal Studios. And of course, he's a super movie star, right? Yet in relationships are about him. So even though he's a real man that will do whatever he decides to do, he's not going to be a great partner because a relationship in his mind is about him. It's not about the partnership in the right way. Okay? Another similar thing is the moon can be conjunct or opposite Mercury. This will also do it. Okay? It'll do it more in friendships. And part of a romantic relationship is friendship too. Venus is worse for romantic relationships, but you want Mercury good too. So believe it or not, one of the main things that makes a person self-centered in a relationship is the moon. Because then the moon, which is the self, the egocentric self, looks for too much for its own self in another person. And then the relationship becomes about them and not about the partnership the way it's meant to be. Okay? So you want to avoid conjunction and opposition of Venus to the moon, or Venus, and by opposition I mean opposite signs. They don't even have to be the exact degree or anything. Or moon to Mercury. That's just some really common things. A lot of astrologers think, oh great, he's got Venus with the moon. You see a man with Venus and the moon, 90% of the time you want to just run. Okay? And how are we going to tell all this? without going to the astrologer. The truth is, everything we do with astrology, we can do without astrology too. It's just with astrology, we can do it way quicker, way more efficiently, with way less error margin. And most importantly, we can do it right away. Okay? So in 5 minutes, we can look at a man's horoscope and we can say definitive things about him. Is he capable? Is he going to treat the relationship about the relationship or about him? Or sometimes a man will even make the relationship about the woman. That's not right either. The relationship needs to be about the relationship, right? Okay? Now, but you can also observe that. If you know what to look for, you can just observe the person. Without astrology, you can just say, oh, I know his career, I know he's hardworking, committed, and responsible. And then you watch how he treats other people. Okay? The way a man treats everyone he meets is exactly the same way he is going to treat you. One of the fatal mistakes that women do, which is connected to mistake number 1, is that they think this guy, because he says he loves her, is going to treat her better than he treats everyone else in his life. No, he's not. So when you go to the grocery store and you see how he treats the person behind the counter, okay? The more horrible the person behind the counter, the better the test, right? If the person behind the counter is a supermodel on vacation filling in at Walmart and he treats her great, that doesn't count. Because of course he's going to treat the hot chick behind the counter really well, okay? But does he treat her better to where he forgets that you're there? That's a bad sign. If he treats her as great as everyone else and still you feel like you're with him, that's right, okay? So you watch how he treats everybody. How he treats the cab driver. How he treats somebody he asks for directions on the street. How he treats somebody who asks him for direction on the street. How he treats the nobodies in his life. Seriously, look how he treats those nobodies. Once he gets to know you, once you're familiar with him, that's exactly how he's going to treat you. Plus, he'll have sex with you. Okay? So, unless you're having sex 24 hours a day, the rest of the time how he treats you becomes more important than how he treats you in bed, right? So, watch how he treats all those nobodies in his life. And while we can look in a horoscope and in 5 minutes we can see how he's going to treat the nobodies in his life, if you don't have access to his birth time, or you're just getting to know him, you don't want to ask, all you have to do is observe. All you have to do is see how he treats everybody. Okay, is he friendly and kind and helpful and supportive to everyone he comes across, even to a gross, despicable person? If he's always willing to give and sacrifice in a confident way, then he's going to always do that for you too. And then you'll have scored, okay? And then all of his other idiosyncrasies, which will be there, because even though he's a man and he's Mr. Right, he's still a human, okay? He's not a wolf yet, he's human. He's going to have lots of eccentricities and lots of things wrong with him, but they won't be things that get in the way of having a partnership, okay? So those are the things a woman needs to look at when she looks at a man. And those are things a man needs to do if he wants to be able to treat a girl right. He has to know what he wants, be committable to that, be responsible to making that happen. And he has to treat people well, and he goes after what he wants, he has to do it without causing harm. Okay? It's really that simple. This is not brain science. Living life is easy. It's just walking through life with eyes closed and mind shut is hard. Okay? But once you understand a little bit, it's really easy to see something. It shouldn't take you more than half an hour of being able to know if this guy's good or bad. And all the time, I get it, women all the time, they say, I knew on the first date, but I was stupid. I did it anyway. And what does that mean? She didn't do this. She felt it on the first date, but she wasn't open, honest, and expressive to herself or to him about that first feeling of, I should get out of here. This guy's not nice. Instead, she convinced herself on some secondary feeling have a relationship with the guy, and it crashed and burned. Okay, 2 years later, 2 years of life wasted. Okay, we always know in the beginning. It's just our conscious minds have to be trained to know what to look for, because we make a lot of our decisions with our conscious mind. Well, that's a lie. We make most of our decisions with our unconscious mind. But if our unconscious mind has any darkness in it, the darkness that might keep a woman from being open, honest, and expressive about her first feelings, then the subconscious mind is going to make the wrong decisions. And she's going to go out with that guy that she had a bad feeling about. And that's why if we train our conscious mind to know what to look for in the horoscope by learning capacity and compatibility, or learning to see in life what a person's actually doing and how that's going to impact his nature in a relationship, then a woman can use her conscious mind, and then when those conscious mind ideas jive with that first feeling that she doesn't really want to deal with, it'll make that first feeling get really clear, and she'll go, oh yeah, I better really get, okay? I also, for those people who are astrologers and want to learn astrology, I have a really great compatibility course that deals with this male capacity. It also deals with compatibility. The one thing it doesn't deal is with a person's behavior based on things like Venus-Moon conjunction that I talked about. That's available in a course called Interpreting Avashtas. Avashtas are the conditions of the planet. When Moon is with Venus, Venus gets starved. And that's a bad Venus, for instance, okay? Just as a starved person is not going to be rational or fair or prudent with the food they get or in the way they get food, a person who has a starved Venus, a starved relationship agenda, is not going to be rational, poised, fair, and good to be within a relationship, okay? So I have those courses available on my website, Vedic-astrology.net, where you can find the audio, and astrologyvideos.com, where you can find videos. And then for those of you who want to get a report, a capacity report on a man, or on yourself, on a woman, or if you're a man, on a woman, we also have female capacities available at www.vaultoftheheavens.com. And it's good to, get the astrology, read the report, but it's also good to know how to, to learn what I talked about a little bit today of how to look for the right signals in a guy and how to pay attention to those signals more than one's need. Because what happens is need for love overrides what our conscious mind tells us about a person. And though we fall in love with the wrong person, not a good idea. So we have to pay attention to what we know is true. It's simple mathematics. If a guy treats everyone else a certain way, that's how he'll treat you. He's not going to treat you different. That's true. It doesn't change. That's how people are. Don't expect that ever to be different. That's a 100% true statement. So now you know that, you can make a huge judgment on how well a guy's going to treat you without even on the first date. Okay, without even before you're even emotionally involved. Okay, I think that's enough information to get you started, and I hope you enjoy learning more astrology and learning more about people and ultimately learning more about yourself. And then, of course, you're going to play the game so much better. All right, thank you.